Still have a couple minutes before it's 1 o'clock as everyone's coming into the room. It's just now 1 o'clock, so we'll give everybody another minute or so to come in. Can read some fun legal language. All right. Oops. Go back here. Second to stop share. I know we have a few more people that we're hoping to attend. We'll give it 1 more minute and then we'll start. Sure. All right, thanks everyone. Well, I got my screen share working again. So we'll go ahead and get started. Who you can also see with me is JC, who is our AMA admin, and she's going to help me to monitor the chat today. We really do want this to be a discussion, so please raise your hand, please ask questions. We have a lot to cover because the AMA has been very busy and we have some wonderful new resources to share with you. So I'm going to kind of jam through a bit, and if I'm going too fast, by all means, tell me to slow down. But I want to start off with some very big thanks. The AMA has been in existence for about 10 months now. The last time we had a town hall was about 6 or 7 months ago, and this list was so much shorter. So thank you to all the founding members. Thank you to everybody who has become a general member. Your support means so much to us, and the diversity of this list is really incredible, and we really just appreciate everyone coming on board and making the AMA really come to life. Our partnership list has also grown so much. this list has gotten much bigger. And I think it's just a testament to how much our industry is behind us. Our community sees artists, managers as not only championing for the talent that they represent, but fighting for the production resources needed to execute a project. And I know there's big conversation around crew rates right now, and we're the ones that are leading those charges and having those discussions. So if you haven't, excuse me, you know what, my links don't seem to be working in present mode, but if you haven't had a chance, please go and check out under membership. There's member perks and discounts. Many of our partners are offering some really amazing discounts, which can offset your membership. So I really encourage you to explore that page and take advantage of what it is that they're offering. I also wanted to address really quickly, when the AMA launched, we've had a number of production companies that have expressed interest in either joining the AMA or helping out in some way, and we appreciate that so much. As a trade organization, it's very important that we are able to champion on behalf of our membership fully and completely, that we aren't leaning one side or the other. And especially in the time of the pandemic, we saw that many artist representatives were taking production in-house. There's also been a trend towards brands contracting directly with production companies for art buying services. So there are times now where our vendors are also becoming our clients. And we're just monitoring that. We want to make sure that we're doing everything right. Like I said, we've only been around for 10 months. So right now we're really focusing on artist management, but we very much appreciate our production partners, and we are happily accepting them as partners. You can go to the partner page here and learn how to become a partner. And becoming a partner of the AMA also gives you access to all of the resources that I'm going to be going through today. So feel free to email me or JC, and we're happy to talk to you about that a bit more. Additionally, we really want your employees to also be able to take advantage of all these great resources that I'm going to go through today. So over the course of the next month, we're going to be providing login codes that are unique to your company for 3 additional team members within your organization. If you need more than that, please reach out to us and let us know. We'll be asking for a nominal fee for that, just to help us with the back end expenses that go along with maintaining a website. But we want to make sure that if you are a member, that your full organization is able to take advantage of what the AMA is offering. And please continue to spread the word. We have a goal of 100 reps by the end of the year, and we're only 25 member agencies shy of that. So let people know what it is that you saw here today and all the great resources. And if they want to speak to anyone, again, have them reach out to us directly. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about all of the different resources that we've launched this fall. I really want to give a major shout out to Jen Jenkins, who took the lead on this alongside our advisory board member, Denise Gilmartin, and Heather Elder. They put a lot of effort into this, and so I want to give them that credit for it. One of the first bidding resources that we have is a template for terms and conditions. We have 2 different templates that you can take advantage of. One defines the relationship between 3 parties. So that's the artist representative that's representing the artist services, the producer for production services, and whomever the advertiser is, whether that's direct to a client or an ad agency. And then the second one goes back to what I said earlier, where we're recognizing that a number of artist agencies are trying to capture new revenue streams and managing production themselves. And this set of terms and conditions defines the relationship between two parties. So where the artist representative is both representing the artist and the production and the advertiser. These are meant to be templates. By no means are we saying you have to use them in the exact way. Download them, read through them, customize them to fit your organization and what it is that you need. But I can tell you personally, as we were developing these, I learned a lot just going through and thinking through every single category that is on there. So if anything, it's just really great information of what maybe some other people might have within their terms and conditions, and some good ideas for you to think through as well. In conjunction with that, we have come up with a terms and conditions glossary. And this is really meant to provide clarity of terms that are commonly seen within project contracts and MSAs and scope of works. This is to help you understand what you're signing, or maybe you already know, but an employee may not. And they can use this as a reference point to go and read and get that education. These terms and conditions that we've built correspond directly to the AMA universal bid form and cover sheet that is going to be coming later this fall. We're really excited about this. We want to thank our partner BlinkBid for creating the catalog and the spreadsheet, and for Sims for doing the coding. Both BlinkBid and Sims have integrated the AMA catalog into their systems. So you can go and check that out now. And I'd actually love to hear from everyone else what software they're using for bidding. We really want to go out to those companies and share this catalog with them and have it be integrated. So if you are using another system, please drop it in the chat so that we can reach out to those folks and help get that integrated into their system. You know, there's been a lot of questions about what a universal bid form can do. I know that I personally have had instances where I'm bidding on something and I might have a production consultant / cost consultant say like, well, insurance isn't industry standard, or this isn't, we don't see this on other bids. And if we're all using the same categories, what you charge for it is ultimately your competitive advantage. But by having that show up on every bid, it does help to create standards. So that's part of why we're really pushing hard for the universal bid form. And again, happy to reach out to these other software companies and work to get that integrated into whatever system it might be that you're using. And hopefully within the next month or so, we're going to be dropping a spreadsheet that you can use and will be open source, so you can customize it however you might need for your productions as well. And then the last thing within bidding resources is a job description checklist. And this is just an exhaustive list of details for you to include on your bid form cover page. It aligns with the AMA terms and conditions as well as the bid form cover page. So you can really put together this very nice, succinct package where everything connects to one another. And so if you're on our site, you just go to resources, and here in the bidding resources is where you'll find all of these wonderful downloads. We have them as PDFs and as docs, so that you can, again, customize them for what it is that you need, but use it as a template to start from. And this is another way, these types of shared legal resources is another way in which we're hoping to offset that monthly membership cost. So you're not starting from scratch with your legal team, but you're building on something. How am I doing, Jason? Is there any questions we need to address so far?
Can't unmute myself. No questions yet. I have a couple different notes about software that they're using. So that's good. I got everyone's messages.
I did see somebody ask about for Blink Bid. I talked to Lou, the owner, and he said that the catalog is available. After this, we'll send out a link, which I think is just blinkbid.com/AMA, I think. But we'll send that out and it'll show you how to access that catalog within the bidding software. All right. The next category is multiple different forms and agreements. We have mutual NDAs for you to use in the bidding process, as well as a third-party producer agreement. I know many times I am signing the PO with an agency or with an advertiser, and I'm making an agreement about liability and payment terms and cancellation terms and what have you, even though I might be using an outside production vendor. And in this instance, I would use that third-party producer agreement so that the producer and I have an understanding of what our financial and our legal relationship is going to be like on that project. This is a really great resource, again, downloadable for you to customize as see fit. On that note, as you're talking about financial responsibilities and liability responsibilities with production vendors, I just want to take a sidebar to talk a little bit about insurance. Something that I've learned in the course of being a member of the AMA is that if the agency is asking you to use their wrap-up insurance, we really recommend that you get a certificate of insurance naming your agency as a named insured. That's different than just pulling a cert and putting your name on it. You want to be in that top left-hand box. That's where you want your company to show up, because then the agency insurance truly acts as the production policy for the project. We have another amazing webinar coming up with one of our partners, Taylor & Taylor Insurance, in mid-November, and I'm incredibly excited for it. I know who gets excited about insurance, but just in talking to Ross Taylor about everything he's going to cover for us, it's going to be incredible. He's going to go through, what does errors and omissions really cover? What does cybersecurity cover? What kind of limits should you have? What type of umbrella project policy should you have, depending on the size of production that you're running? And I think, again, as many of us are taking on the responsibility of production more and more, that's going to be a really informative webinar. So when you get a chance, please go sign up for that one as well. Some additional agreements that we have: crew confidentiality agreements. There's two forms, one with and another without an IP assignment. For the most part, your crew doesn't have right or title to copyright, so you're going to use our base one. But if you're working with maybe a model maker or an illustrator or another artist, then you would use the form without IP assignment. And we have two different talent releases, your basic one, as well as a loan-out agreement should the talent have its own company, as well as location releases. And that all, again, lives in this resource category under forms and agreements. And you'll see you can both download the PDF as well as the document file, put your logo on it, make any changes that you feel are necessary for your business. The next category is glossary and definitions. We have recently upgraded our usage glossary. Again, have to give a big thank you to Vanessa Stevens of VS & Co, who has taken the lead on making our website and done an amazing job on it. And she recently reformatted the usage glossary. So you can see this table of contents here. It allows you to jump right to the category you might need if you're looking for something specifically for advertising. We have really tried to create a very exhaustive list of usage. If you are scrolling through this and there's a new media or something that we've overlooked, by all means, again, reach out to us, let us know. And these are just definitions for you to use in the course of the bidding process, and helping you to determine pricing. If there's a term that you haven't heard before, you can come here and look it up, and hopefully it'll be informative for you. Also, we recently today launched the Agreements Glossary, and this is just a detailed list of definitions of common terminology. It breaks down for you what's the difference between a one-way NDA versus a mutual NDA. What is the difference between a scope of work and a master services agreement? And other important details for you to think through as you're developing usage terms for a project. For many of the agency owners out there, you may already know these things, but it also, again, we're really wanting this to be a resource for your employees. And sometimes it's just nice to have a little bit of backup behind you. I know I have used the usage glossary many times to help define a certain type of media with a client. And it's been great to say, this is the AMA, this is our industry's point of view of what that type of media is. And so all of that, again, can be found here within usage, within glossaries and definitions here. And if you haven't had a chance to explore the site, another really wonderful resource that we have is from a previous webinar, is this deck explaining copyrights and editorial contracts. So encourage you to come and take a look at that. Let's see, where am I at? And then lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about our national guidelines for photo production that's within our production resources. This is something that I think in the time of the pandemic, many of us turned to the AICP to see what it is what they were doing and how they were leading the charge through the crisis. And as we developed these national guidelines, we looked to the AICP, which is set many of the standards that we all go by, to see where we're in alignment, and find that common ground. And then there were some areas of difference. I know as coming on to this webinar, one of the questions that we received from our community was, what about payment terms? Payment terms seem to be shifting dramatically within our industry. And that's an area which we have aligned with the AICP. And we're hoping that these guidelines, that you can reference them in your conversations with clients to help them understand what the industry standard is on the live action side and how that should be extended over into the commercial photography industry. We have an amazing advisory board member, Denise Gilmartin, who is, I believe, out in the audience, who I'd love to, maybe Denise, you can raise your hand. There we go. There we go. Hi, Denise.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today.
Sure.
I'd love to just hear a little bit about how live action companies are using your guidelines and and give our community some ideas of how we can take advantage of what the AMA has developed for the commercial photography industry.
Okay, oh, well, I think the best thing about the AICP guidelines is that since it's been around for a really long time, a lot of agencies and advertisers have adopted them. So even when they say we don't adhere to AICP guidelines and they might have something a little different, it's still similar to what we've put forth. So it's kind of set the bar, so to speak, of what should take place and how things should be dealt with. You mentioned the payment terms. I know that when working with the AICP's payment terms for live action is 75-25, which is 75% before you begin to shoot, and then 25% thereafter, whether it's 30 days or whatever you agree to with your client. And that we had looked at how that would work with the photo production, and we came up with the 150-50 plan, which is 100% of the production costs and 50-50 on the photographer's fees. And I think that where the photo community has a great advantage over the live action community is that the work is licensed, or more mostly licensed. So when it comes to payment, the live action people have been working under work for hires forever. And they gave up the rights to, or the IP rights or the copyright to the footage a long time ago. I'm guessing because they couldn't think of what they should do with it. I mean, if you have a commercial with laundry detergent in it, what are you going to do with that footage, right? And then also that the actors in it were being paid by the agency. So it was a little bit cumbersome. But the photo group has an advantage because if you're licensing it, it's not a work for hire. You retain ownership of the IP, hopefully, and they can't use it until you've paid for it. I mean, it's either breach of contract or copyright infringement, and you can tell them to take it down. And the live action people don't have that. So I would urge everyone, if you're working in this space, to hold on to that licensing, because that's a big advantage, especially when it comes to sequential liability. I don't know if you want me to talk about that too, but I could go on and on forever.
Well, I think that's really interesting. You know, you're bringing up the point of like a long time ago was when work for hire came about on the AICP side, and television once upon a time was about moving detergent and cereal. It wasn't what it is today, where you're really producing incredible films that go across many different platforms. I'm just always curious if people could have a window into the future, Denise, do you think that they would have held on to that?
Absolutely. And once you give it up, you can't get it back. It's really, really difficult to get it back. That's why I urge everybody to hang on to the ownership of the prints, the photo.
And that's really, I think, part of what the usage glossary is. I mean, I think it's a pretty amazing thing when you start to go through the usage glossary and you just look in the advertising category, all of the different types of media placements that are possible for a photo are really, it's quite vast. And this is me speaking as an agent, I feel like there's a price that's associated with that. And that's part of also why we've come up with the usage glossary. Going back to the payment terms too, I know it might seem a little bit aggressive to people that we're asking for 100% of production expenses up front, but we also have cost plus bids. It takes, I'm sure for many of you, it's like me, it could take 2 weeks to over a month to wrap a job. And those carrying costs there's a price to them. So it's important for me, at least, to get enough of an advance if a company is asking me to do cost plus. And that was the thinking behind this payment plan. I'm happy for people to raise their hands and to join this discussion. because I know that it's become an issue. For my own company, we've had people say, well, I'm shifting to the industry standard of 120 days. I don't know what industry that's a part of or where that's come about, but I think that having something like our national guidelines for us all to reference back to, hopefully is a way that you can push back and show that the industry is behind you asking for more. And then also speaking to Denise's point about sequential liability, having that 100% advance and getting a portion of your artist's fees makes it a little bit less scary that an advertiser, an agency doesn't have to pay you until they get paid by the brand. So is there any questions in the chat around this? Any thoughts? Good questions. Denise, how long did it take for the AICP guidelines to become standard?
That's a really good question. AICP has been in existence since 1972. And I think that was probably the second thing that they started working on. The first thing was the bid form. And I think it's in the absence of having anything, people look to something, and that's how they became standard, because nobody really had a guideline. No one had a standard. What do you do about cancellation? Like, how do you pay somebody? So by coming up with the guidelines, that was the only thing that was out there, and people started using it. And when cost consultants started coming along, that's when I noticed more and more were saying, well, we don't adhere to the AICP guidelines and we have our own guidelines. And a lot of them are very similar. Usually the force majeure weather day stuff's almost exactly the same. They'll change the cancellation postponement by a few days. Some of them will change it from, we want a percentage of the production fee as bid to, they're going to give us that percentage of markup on the out-of-pocket costs, which is crazy to me because they're incentivizing you to spend more money. I mean, the more money you spend, the more money you make, right? So I would think that they'd want you to try to mitigate your costs so they could spend less. And also a lot of your work is before you start spending money. I mean, most of it goes into prep, and then during the shoot, you're just executing it. So it's not really a fair proposition, but those are some of the things we've been dealing with. But it's like I said, in the absence of anything else, it became the standard.
Yeah, and this is one slight deviation that we have from the AICP, but for the most part, we are in alignment with the AICP guidelines. And the thinking there is, if this is the courtesy that could be extended to our live action counterparts, the commercial photography world should be treated the same way.
Exactly.
That is the hope. Another question we have here: is there ever going to be a shift in social media rates? It's a really great question. And this is another way in which I personally have used the usage glossary. I think that the AMA is here to educate our community. And that's not only us as artist managers, but also our clients, and having clients understand that there's a difference between you running images on their owned and operated sites versus paid social media. Especially in the time of the pandemic, advertising has made a huge shift to online, and that has become the primary mode of delivering content. So the AMA is here to begin that conversation across our entire community. And while we can't set rates, ultimately it's the market, and it's for you to determine with your artist what you're going to charge. We can at least help in that education of explaining to clients what streaming services and over the top cord cutting like a Hulu or a Paramount Plus, how valuable that type of advertising is, how that's even more valuable than broadcast in a way, because of the data that it gives an advertiser back. Now, again, what you set your rate to be, what you charge, that's for you and that's your competitive advantage. But at least we can begin to have that conversation as a community. Let's see, what else is there? Uh-oh, was I frozen for a little bit?
No,
No, I was good, okay. All right. Well, please continue to raise your hands and throw questions in the chat. I'll keep heading through. A number of questions have been about our monthly dues and what are we doing with the money. And I won't dive into the details here. We'll send the presentation out. But the most important thing that I want our community to understand is that the AMA is a business. Granted, we are absolutely not for profit, but we have accounting services. All of these resources that we've developed alongside our legal team, and there's real expenses there. We need to pay taxes, we need to carry insurance. There's a cost with creating and developing a website and a logo. And granted, a lot of this is a volunteer effort, but we still need money to exist, and we still need your dues in order to expand. One of the things that we had started to investigate in the future was having all of the members buy into a healthcare plan, because we know with greater numbers, we could purchase better health insurance for everyone. But we need someone to administer that plan, and your member fees go towards an association employee. I think one of the things we would love to end up with is offering more shared legal services. Denise, do you want to talk a little bit about how that happens on the AICP side, so that we can get a vision for something that we could strive towards with member dues?
sure. It was a really interesting dilemma because all these agency contracts would pressure production companies or say no one else complains or no one else wants to make changes or no one else does anything else. And we all knew that was bullshit, basically. So we retained an attorney where the AICP pays her firm an annual retainer, and she does all the agency contracts for all of our members at no charge. And then the way we recoup the money that we pay her is that we raised our dues. So now everybody that's an AICP member has access to this legal initiative, is what we call it. And they send in the contracts they get from agencies through their portal. They answer a bunch of questions about the job, about the specs, what have you. Like, are you paying the talent, or is the agency paying the talent, things like that. And then she, by getting so many of these contracts for so many members, I think we have about 300 members. I think only over maybe 150 are using it. And so she sees all these contracts, and since she knows what she did last time, she can just say to the agency lawyer, let's just make the same changes. So now there's a version, an AICP version of all these contracts that people are able to utilize. So it's really helped streamline things a lot. It unfortunately doesn't cover direct to client because those are so different. Every advertiser has their own giant MSA that's usually, 30, 40 pages, and it has nothing to do with advertising. It has something to do with their core business. So if it's a tech company, it's all about code. If it's a manufacturing company, it's going to be about ingredients or supplies. And so we couldn't cover the cost that it would take to do all those. So it's strictly just agency contracts because they're all kind of the same, just a little bit different.
But that's still a great like platform to build from. There was a question in the chat of, will the rate goes down as the members rise? Most likely what will happen is we'll just offer more services, and we will continue to build the organization and implement new programs to continue to help build a better industry. That is our ultimate goal. So again, this was my slide about shared legal resources. Just again, encouraging you to take a look at these forums, and you know, if anything, there'll be inspiration for you for things to include within your own terms and conditions and within your own documents. But our hope is that really it helps to offset some of your own personal legal costs. I also just really want to encourage anyone who's interested in getting involved. The AMA is mostly a volunteer effort. And so if you have an interest in a committee, please reach out. We truly need help, need people to do the work and to do the research or the reach out to our community. And just a reminder to everyone, you know, the industry really is behind us, which is indicated by the partners who are signing on to the AMA and lending their support, helping us to build resources and giving us financial support. So we really need your involvement, and we really want your voice. If you have an idea of, if there's anybody who wants to start to throw that in the chat of other things that they'd like us to pivot and to look towards to help build for the industry, we need that feedback so that we can continue to move in a direction that's beneficial for the whole membership.
Ellie, I'd like to say something about community.
Sure.
Aicp has a lot of benefits for its members. I think the biggest benefit by far is the community, which is, it's hard to define because it's not a piece of paper and, you know, it's not quantifiable, but I think that's been the biggest benefit for all of its members, because if you're in a community, you're talking to each other, you're alerting. I get emails from members all the time as Vice President of Business Affairs over there. I get emails from people saying, hey, have you heard of this? Have you seen this? This is new. This company is doing a preferred vendor list. What do you think of this? And we can get into it. And as more people send them in, we can start talking about it. And we talk about it in our town halls, or we talk about it at roundtable meetings or what have you. And then once people are in the know about something, it's easier for them to decide whether they think it's good or not, whether they want to participate or not. And a lot of things that have been bad for our industry have been killed just because people just say, no, I'm not doing that. And then they feel comfortable knowing that everyone else is aware also, and they're just not a lone silo, and they're not just operating on their own. They're in the lifeboat with everybody else.
Absolutely. And that's another reason to get involved in a committee to help build that community. Yes, I see in the chat someone asked about hiring people in this industry, and is this a resource or bulletin board to find people? This is something we have investigated quite a bit. Financially, putting together job boards and the maintenance that are required for them, we need more resources to do that. So that's another thing, is as more members come and we have the resources to administrate on something like that, we absolutely know that a job board is something that this industry needs. We also really, I know on the DEI committee, is looking to go out to schools and do outreach to BIPOC and other marginalized communities, to let them know about the photo industry, what it means to be a photo agent, and to try to create a more inclusive industry as well. So your monthly dues are so important in making initiatives like this happen. And to your point on training programs, a lot of these glossaries A lot of these templates are an excellent resource for an agent that is entering this industry. Just reading through the national photo guidelines and familiarizing yourself with the terms and with what it is that we're championing is really wonderful education for an agent that is just starting out as well as the universal bid form. I remember when I started using BlinkBid as my software, and they had some preset catalogs, and it really kind of opened my eyes to additional things that I should be charging. Those things where you're like, I kind of feel like I'm giving something away for free, and then you see a line item for it and you go, ah, that's what that's called. That's how I refer to my time when I'm putting together this production or my artist's time when I'm putting together a bid for them. These sorts of things build a really wonderful foundation for our industry to build upon. So, please know your money is going towards a good cause and being put to good use to help build up our programs. If there's any other questions, please feel free to add them to our chat. I did want to make a plug for a couple of upcoming webinars we have. Next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern, we have a production consultant webinar. Cost consultants have shifted towards the title of production consultant. And so we're going to talk about what the evolution of a cost consultant / production consultant does. We have 3 of the leading ones in the industry, and they're happy to take your questions about how they view bids and what their role is in the production process. So we're going to work to lift the veil on that side of the process that can sometimes have a little bit less transparency. And then a month from now, we're going to have that guide to insurances that I was talking about with Taylor and Taylor Insurances, which is really going to be very, very interesting and very educational, and help you understand whether or not you have the appropriate coverages for both your business and for your productions, depending on whether they're on location or where that location might be. That should be really educational as well. So we're a little over 45 minutes. Is there any other questions? To the board members in the audience, please feel free to raise your hand. Is there anything that I missed? All right. Well, I really, again, appreciate this community for coming together and rallying around the AMA. I know there is so much more that we can continue to build and that we can continue to do together. So please reach out to us, email me directly. JC just put her email in the chat, and let us know what you need support on. Let us know what are pain points in your business, and we'll see what we can do to help educate around and build some tools that can help you in your business and help you grow. So thank you to everyone. We really appreciate you coming today. We'll be sure to make this recording available as well as the deck that I presented here today. Thanks, everyone.